In this video, I want to debunk 4 common myths about flash. I feel weird when I tuck in my thumb like I should go 4. 4 common myths about flash. And those myths are that, number 1, flash is complicated. And I have displayed a calculator here because I hate math. I absolutely hate it. And this is coming from a former accountant and CPA. That's why I'm a photographer now, because I hate math. Number 2, flash can't look natural. Your images are always going to look like they have been flashed. Completely false. Number 3, flash photography is expensive and requires too much gear. It's true that flash photography does require more gear. I mean, it's more gear to use, but it doesn't require tons of gear. And the gear isn't necessarily expensive either. So that's completely false myth. We're going to talk about each of these in detail. Number 4, flash is only needed in dark or when dealing with subjects in shadows, and that's completely false as well. All right, so let's start from the top with flash is complicated. Okay, we have ETTL, we have TTL, we have manual, flash power, ambient versus flash, exposure, power settings, zoom, inverse, square, what the heck is that? Sync speed, high speed sync. I mean, there's a ton to learn about flash, but it's only complicated when you try to approach it all in one sitting. When you try and approach it all at the same time, where you're doing off-camera flash and on-camera flash and studio strobes and pocket strobes, and you're trying to get that whole thing just swallowed in one gulp, it's just not gonna happen. But when we break it out, and that's the reason again why we're using one single on-camera flash, because we can focus on just on-camera flash and break down each one of these principles, it's gonna create an incredibly intuitive foundation for your lighting going forward, where basically after this workshop, whether you're using a studio strobe, a pocket strobe, whether you're using off-camera or on-camera flash, these principles are gonna become simple and easy to understand. And basically all you have to do is learn where the buttons are on whatever piece of gear that you're using. That's it. Okay, so flash is only complicated when we try to approach everything all at once. It's true that there's a little bit more to learn because now you're learning lighting and a different type of technique versus natural light, but it's gonna be well worth it and it's not gonna be nearly as complicated as you think. Myth number 2, flash can't look natural. That is complete hogwash. Flash can look completely natural. It also can look super dramatic and unnatural, if you will. It's really just a matter of balance. I mean, over here we have 6 different portraits. All of these are designed to have a very natural and subtle use of flash basically in them, so that really in looking at them, you wouldn't think that they're anything other than either natural light or simply reflector modified natural light. But in actuality, they all have been flashed. So flash can look as natural as you want it to, it can look as dramatic as you want it to. We're gonna talk about that as we go through the workshop, but don't think that it can't look natural. Myth number 3 is that flash is too expensive. And you know, I kind of get that because most workshops, as we talked about, start from that bottom-up gear approach, where basically they tell you to buy all this gear and all the lighting modifiers and everything that you possibly might need for studio and off-camera and on-camera and all that kind of stuff. If you did that, you're gonna be spending $5,000, $10,000, and that is expensive. And that's saying that you don't go out and buy the best stuff. You go out and buy Broncolors, you're spending $20,000, $30,000. But it doesn't have to be that way. And what this workshop is designed to do is to teach you flash with an on-camera flash and just simple light modification via inexpensive reflectors. That way it's accessible and approachable to everybody. I mean, most of you should already have an on-camera flash. If not, please buy one, because it is quite necessary to have an on-camera flash. Everything else though is gonna be around anywhere between $10 for DIY solutions that we're gonna be showing you, $20, $30. Most all of the light modifiers that we're using here are under $50 or well under $50. With the exception of one thing, and that is a neutral density filter. And there's gonna be different levels of quality that we're gonna give you. Those can range between $100 and $300. But again, one great neutral density filter is something that's fantastic to invest in. It's gonna be something that you use quite a bit in your flash career, and it's useful for a whole bunch of purposes as well, just in general to slow down your shutter speed. But we'll talk about that more later on. But that item there is the only piece that's gonna be basically more than, $50. Everything else, extremely inexpensive, very accessible, and flash does not need to be expensive to get great results. Myth number 4 is that flash is only meant for the dark. Now, it's true that if you want to, you can go out at nighttime and you can use flash to brighten up your subjects. You can shoot in the dark, you can use flash to brighten up your subject. Great, flash can be used in the dark, but it's not just for that, okay? Hopefully you've already seen by now that we're using flash in the middle of the day to overpower the sun to create really dramatic shots with great color behind them. We're also using flash in the middle of the day, like for example in this shot where we have a beautiful natural light portrait. We just use a little bit of flash to add some light direction and change the light quality a tiny bit. We use flash in our studio to create the right type of light to accent different features, as you might see in these athletic portraits. Here where we basically want to show off muscle definition. I love this shot where we show off his abs. He's got crazy abs. Not so much. I have like 1 ab. He has like 8. That's crazy. Okay, here we're using it in, it's kind of a darker scene, but this is still in the middle of the day. It's under a bridge, and we could shoot there with natural light. It's still bright enough to shoot with natural light. We're just simply using flash to overpower the existing light under the bridge and create a very dramatic effect. Hopefully this video helps to kind of debunk some of the myths out there of what flash can and can't be, or what it is. It's too expensive, it's too complicated, and so forth, because it's simply not true. Most of the time I found that these kind of reasons and myths that exist around flash, they're created because photographers are oftentimes, they don't want to learn flash because maybe they're a little bit lazy. They don't want to get out there and actually practice and study it and so forth. Or they might be intimidated by it. They find it very challenging, and so they'd rather stick with what they know. Either way, I want you guys to expand your vision of what flash can be. And it's just one of those additional kind of tools in your toolkit that's going to give you more control, more flexibility, regardless of what scene you're working within. But we're going to talk about some of those challenges in the next video. So let's go on to that now. Four tips when you must use direct flash. Now, what do I mean here? I mean that you're not using direct flash for stylistic purposes. You're using it simply because you need a light. I'm going to give you some tips here for when you have no other choice other than to use direct flash.